BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything online sports betting. Right now, you can receive a 50% free bet of up to $250 on your first deposit to bet on anything from the Olympics to baseball to Formula One racing. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. When the game's over, head on over to our online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker, or unwind with one of our over 150 slots games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Use promo code BLEAV for your 50% free bet credit on your first deposit up to $250. Bet online. The game starts here.
But let's talk about the defensive staff. You mentioned it earlier. You wanted to talk about your guys. Let's start with Coach Mario Magana. I know he's a great guy, and I know for you to have him in that room with you, I know that position group is near and dear to your heart. So you want to have somebody special in there taking care of those corners. So tell us a little bit about him, Mr. Cali.
He brings a lot to the table. You know, he young, so he brings a bunch of energy in the room, and the kids love it. They feed off of it. But he's a technician. You know, when it comes to the corners, he can tell you, hey, coach, we want to step here. Our eyes want to be here. Our hands want to be like, he's very in detail and intentional when he's talking to the guys about technique. And like I tell him, I said, man, that'll take you a long way. I got the scheme, you know, but each position, it got to be fundamentals. It got to be technique, because that's what we're going to lean our head on when things go sideways. It ain't going to be about the X and O's. You know, we ain't doing nothing different than they doing at Baltimore or Michigan. Mm-hmm. Nothing different. I said, but where them pieces at and how they get it done is gonna mean everything. So that's what Mario kind of brings to the table. Just being organized and being a technician in that corner room.
I want to talk about a younger guy, second year, but he'll be a freshman on the field. We've been excited about him since he signed. Obviously, he had to go through his first year in red shirt, but a lot of talent. We're talking about a Nyreek Sharp, a former 3-4 star, had multiple Power 5 offers coming out of high school. So where is he at in his development? Tons of potential. Sometimes it takes time, but we got a glimpse of it in the spring game. I mean, locking up with the Rico Powers, not backing down, barking at him. So the attitude's there, right? The mindset is there. So, and I know the tools are there. So what do you think about it?
Man, Nyreek, whenever I look at Nyreek, I just can't help but look at him and be proud. He's come a long way. I mean, last year, a lot of freshman growing pains, which is to be expected. But he answered the call and the challenge from Coach Quinn and myself of growing up and having to grow up fast. And, I mean, I looked at him. I mean, I promise you not, it was about 2 days ago. He took the two new freshmen, KJ Chisholm and Brandon Mitchell, and started coaching them up after practice. Wow. Yeah, he took them, pulled them to the side, and started talking them through technique. Okay. Yeah, and just looking at him just grow and develop in that way has been great, because he does have the tools, he does have the desire to be great, and now seeing that desire paired with the knowledge and the ability to lead, I mean, Nyreek is going to be something special, and I think he's going to be of help for us this season, and I can't wait to see him just really let it loose this fall camp. And really make a shot for that starting job. I mean, he is something I'm very excited to see this season.
Man, that is great. That's music to my ears and fans' ears, because again, we know that the physical tools are there, but to hear that maturity, right? To taking the younger guys that are just a year under him, right?
Yeah,
under his wing already. That is huge. That's huge. And speaking of those younger guys, KJ Chisholm, hearing a lot of great things about him as well. So what do you like about him?
KJ Chisholm is real exciting as a freshman. I mean, he came in again with a lot of technique already under his in his toolbox, and extremely coachable. I mean, he's a guy that I only have to tell him something once and he understands what is being asked, and he puts it on tape the very next rep. So he's a quick learner, very yes sir, no sir kind of guy. He's about ball. He's here to really learn, really develop, and to be honest, I think he's somebody we'll be able to turn to this season, should we need to. He has to continue to show us that on during fall camp with the pads on, continue to avoid the freshman growing pains that that you come to expect with college football, and just see where the chips fall. But he's an exciting guy. High vert too. I think he's jumping a 40-inch vert. So he's an athletic dude now. He's an athletic dude. You can see him stand out there on the field.
And then the other freshman, you mentioned him, Brandon Mitchell, intriguing prospect. So 2 things. Hey, how'd you stave off Coach Vincent Marshall and keeping him out off that offensive side? That's first and foremost. I know that was a back and forth to get him on your side. And then when you were able to get him on your side, how'd you get him in the cornerback room instead of the safety room with that side?
Oh man, it's been a journey with Brandon Mitchell. Keeping him away from the offense has been it's been a rising conversation as of late. You're starting to hear the whispers of, we can bring him over to the receiver room. They're starting to rewatch the high school film, and it's like, okay, so now we're starting to reach that phase where, okay, I might have to stave him off a little bit. But then on our end, we actually did start him off at the safety, and tried to get him to see and feel it out, see how he'd be as a guy on the roof. But ultimately, really looking at it, Brandon's skill sets really belonged in the cornerback room. That kind of length, you kind of compare him to Micah Cherry, and you just see, okay, he comes in with a lot of speed, straight line speed. That length is something that is really hard to find to begin with. And it's like, okay, let's get him coached up on technique. Let's get him coached up out there on the perimeter, and let's really get the most out of the athletic ability he came in with. And then on top of that, just as a freshman, it allows him to really just tunnel vision how he's going to approach football right now. And it's all going to be part of his development. Either he's going to be a great corner and then we eventually move him to the roof, but right now his skill sets have him on the perimeter.
All right. I love the size in that secondary. I love the versatility in that secondary. And another guy who I don't know where he's going to play. He can play it all. He's an HBCU All-American. Have no idea how he wasn't first team All-SWAC, but look at a guy like Robert McDaniel, who actually started out at Jackson State. You can play him at the nickel, the corner, the safety. So if you can get him in that cornerback room, or regardless, just talk about him, what he brings to the table.
Rob is a special player. Rob is just exactly what you would expect to see at the next level. He comes in with such a physical dominance on the field. Wherever he's at, you're going to see him. And if you're on the field with him, you're going to feel him. So at the safety position, he's a phenomenal guy to have there, especially because of that physicality. But then out in the corner room, his coverage ability is incredible. And it goes back to that physical edge that he brings. You put him down on the line and press up a receiver. That length and that strength is really, really hard to get away from. And you pair that with just football maturity, knowing how the game works, knowing where he's supposed to be, and the athletic ability that he already has in his hands. It's a scary sight. And for us, at the end of the day, it's how do we find a way to get Rob on the football field? And that's just the way we think. Like he's a guy we got to have out there.
A lot of, like I said, a lot of versatility. You have a lot of options. That's always a good thing. And we haven't even named everybody else. I won't keep going. If anybody else, any other names that I missed that you want to touch on? Because I know you got a list of guys, but I think we covered most of them.
That is for the cornerback room. That's going to be everybody. Okay. Everybody to talk about. Yes, sir.
So 2 other guys who I thought were corners. We talk about you being able to keep Brandon Mitchell for now, at least, but looks like you may have lost 2 of them. So I want to find out how did you lose these 2 guys? I think you know who I'm talking about. These are 2 true freshmen. First of all, Mr. Mike Smith. Coach T.C. Taylor said himself that he's probably one of the best corners on the team. So I'm thinking, okay, why isn't he over there? And then Travis Terrell, he was recruited by a bunch of FBS programs at cornerback, and these are both 3-star corners. So what was that conversation like? How'd you let him get away?
Those two are just, watching them move around this summer and watching them compete has been a sight to see. Wherever you are in the football facilities, they're both together. And just a fantastic duo to watch. And not having them in the cornerback room is going to be a fight. And a fight that I hope to continue to go after.
So it's not over.
It's not over. It's not over. It's not over. But we have been talking about it. But I think at the end of the day, we kind of look at their value as offensive weapons and really what they bring to the table on that side of the football. And we have a pretty deep cornered room right now. So it's okay. We can look at this room and build what we have in here. Should we need one of those two, we can bring them on. But when they already have those kinds of tools on the defensive side, it's if we need them, we can bring them in and they'll be ready to go plug and play. But at the end of the day, especially for the young guys, it's all about development. Giving them opportunity to be on the offensive side of the football, make a name for themselves on that side and see if it fits. And if not, shoot, they are more than welcome to come back to this defensive room and light it up with us on the dark side.
I love hearing about the depth. I mean, for you to have 2 3-star freshmen who are recruited by FBS programs and have the luxury of allowing them to move over to the offensive side of the ball, that says a lot, especially for an FCS program, especially for a SWAC program. So that lets me know you're loaded. So just talk about the group as overall. Talk about the progression of this unit throughout the summer and the expectations for fall camp, just in terms of what you're looking to fine tune to get ready for the season.
Man, I'm excited about the group. I think right now what I'm looking to see the most is that leadership to really shine through. The guys understand the technique. They're understanding what they need to see, what they need to be doing and putting on tape. They understand what the mentality is for the back end, and really that's a big ask for the summer, and really the main focus. If you're going to be here working out and putting all this time in over the summer, you would hope that at the end of it, you figured out how to be a Jackson State football player, how to function within our back end, and they hit all that in stride as it is. So now it's okay. You've seen the defense, you've been around the team, put it together in pads, and that's all I can look for next. See who's got that physical edge we talked about to match the mentality of the defense. And once we see all those pieces in place, we'll know what we have to go to war with. And that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited to really see that come to fruition.
And touch on that safety unit as well. We're not going to go through them one by one, but just overall, those guys having your back. What do you see in them? What do you like about that unit? Studs
all across the board. You look at that safety room and you just can't help but feel safe. It's like at the end of the day, I mean, you still have Rob in that room. So you have a physical presence in him. Isaias Guthrie, just a brainiac on the football field, just field general. Petty bringing an experience and ranginess and that want to. And then even new additions. You look at Cameron Smith from Eastern Michigan, just an absolute dude. I mean, coming in with again, another physical presence on the back end, tremendous range. Joe Perkins coming off injury.
That's what I want to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you start to see that BJ Washington. I mean, I can go on.
Guys, wow.
Yeah, there's only so many positions on the football field, and I can go on and on about the safeties room and just feel like we just have a phenomenal group back there. And really, it's going to be a fun fall camp for them because it's going to be a matter of, all right, who's really going to start to pull away, and whoever pulls away, they're going to have earned that job because that is a gauntlet. That is a gauntlet in that room.
We've talked to a bunch of coaches on air and off camera as well, including Coach Taylor. And the one thing that keeps coming up from every coach consistently is depth. It's the depth across the board. I know that Coach Taylor and you all focused on that. Injuries, which is part of football, kind of hurt you last season. But I love the way you shored up every single position and the depth is there. And speaking of the depth, one of the deepest units on the team, the defensive line. I want to hear about that unit. Obviously, you're a secondaries guy, but the importance of a defensive line, that can make or break your unit, right? So I know Absolutely. You need that unit to be loaded. So talk about the depth there, and it's so many guys. I tell the coach all the time, good luck figuring out who starts and rotate them in and things like that. But how excited are you about that defensive line?
Man, I am so excited about that defensive line unit. I mean, they have been first and foremost. Coach Kylie James and Coach Aaron Jackson, Coach Devancy Jones. I mean, you have 3 guys really working in tandem with that defensive line unit. So you have 3 great football minds coaching up with such high intensity all the time. And then you see just the depth of the room and who we have. And it's like my head starts spinning, thinking about all the names and all the rotations we could possibly do. We could put this guy here, this guy here. It is just a hell of a unit to watch. And really looking at them during their indo periods and watching them do drill work, it's motivating. It's motivating because you just see them work so hard. You see the football maturity just across the board in that room. They're football dudes. They're football dudes, and you can see it in the way they carry themselves, the way they approach their meetings, the way they buy into Coach Kali and that defensive line room. Man, it's exciting. They're going to help us out a ton.
Talk a little bit more about Coach James. We absolutely love him. That was a steal getting him from Florida, the University of Florida. And I want you to talk about him, not only because he's coaching that unit that's important to you, but Coach Jonathan Bradley, obviously former DC, but coach that D-line and lose him. I know you kind of get nervous, like, oh man, we're losing Brad, but you bring in a Cali James and that energy that he brings to the youth, just the resources, the relationships that he has with those recruits. So just talk about his addition to the team.
Absolutely. I mean, after Coach Bradley left, I mean, you wonder who's going to replace such a strong presence and powerful football mind. And for Kali to step in and really just show it off rip that he is super intelligent about his craft. I mean, he talks about D-line ministry and he lives and breathes it. He's the D-line whisperer. He knows exactly what techniques apply to what coverage and what schemes. He's coming in with a wealth of knowledge in the run game. And he's a phenomenal teacher. You just see him get on the board and see him talk ball. And it's just like, wow, there's so much football in that mind of his. And for him to be coming from Florida, you can see why he was at an SEC program. He just brings a wealth of knowledge and an enthusiasm that anybody I know or anybody I meet that knows him, that's the first thing I'll hear about. It's his enthusiasm, and it's unmatched. You see, yes, it's infectious. It really is. You see him out there coaching, and I mean, even for me as a coach, I have to get competitive. It's like, okay, who's going to bring the most juice today? Because he's coming out with something that's just wow. You watch him hit that field, and you know we're about to work. You know what the attitude for the day and how it's going to look like.
And the coaching staff overall lost a lot of coaches. They moved on, which is, I always say, that's not a negative. That's a great thing, because that says that you have a really good staff if other schools want him. So I know it looks at it and they, we lost Coach Bradley, but hey, somebody else wanted him, which means we had a great guy. Having to bring all these new coaches in a short amount of time to gel and get ready for spring, how has that been, developing relationships with the coaches and building that camaraderie amongst yourselves, all the new faces in the building?
It's been seamless. I mean, you bring all these new faces in, Coach Chris Orr, Coach Kali, Coach Devancy, and now Coach Tanoa Alex. You start to see just how easy it is to mesh. It can be the age. It can be part of it, just the youth in the building and the ability to look at one another and just see, hey, we're really all in this together, and we're all on a similar path towards success. And we all we have these conversations a lot, just kind of looking around at each other and just thinking what the future holds for each one of us. And we just can't help but think and accept that we are around a lot of great football minds in this room. And though the age and the number on our age might reflect or give a certain narrative, there's so much wisdom and so much depth of football split amongst all of us that it's just like our meetings run extra long because we're just talking football too long. Right. It is a great environment to be a part of.
It's funny that you mentioned that age, because we talked about it with Coach Quinn, and he admitted it. He said, look, I needed some old heads, all these young guys. And each time there was a new coach to be hired, he would expect to get an older person, and Coach O would say, I got you. But he would say, well, interview this one other guy. And it's a young guy. Ended up hiring him because that was the best man for the job. And he looks around and he's pretty much the only old head, but that's good. That keeps him young. It keeps him young as well.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. And it really is. It's wild. And I'd love to see what the numbers are. We might end up being the youngest defensive staff in America. But it's an exciting room to be a part of. It's because you can, at the end of the day, you look at how the guys, and really it's all about the players at the end of the day. You see how they respond to having young coaches around. You see them respond to the energy. You still have structure and discipline coming from each one of us. And again, that's also a big part of Coach Quinn's influence on us as a defensive coordinator. And you wouldn't think that the average age would be what it was.
Right.
It's all run the way it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Good stuff. I want to talk about another unit on the other side of the ball. And I know it's probably strange for me to ask you about all these different position groups when you coach in the secondary, but I'd like to get a perspective your perspective on these groups because it all kind of intertwines. But the wide
Mhm.
receiver room, we're looking at this roster. It looks like a deep and talented unit. We talk
Mhm.
about, you always hear the term iron sharpening iron, right? Especially in
Mhm.
practice. So talk about that unit.
Oh man, it's and you're absolutely right with the iron sharpens iron part. I have this conversation with Coach Marshall almost after every 7-on-7 practice, just going back and looking at how the receivers attack us on the back end, as far as how they attack our techniques using what they have in their toolboxes, what they're seeing from us defensively. I mean, that unit is deep. I mean, you look around the board and it for me, it's like, okay, guys, when you watch film and you start watching even your own teammates, you need to start figuring out who's really in front of you, because there's no one person that's like the other. You have to figure out what everybody's strengths are, and that's what's so special about the wide receiver room. They all come in with different strengths, whether it's the ability for a Jonas Vertillion to be able to go for a jump ball, or if it's a Jameel Gardner and he just has this blazing speed. Even looking at the young guys, for example, Travis Terrell and Mike Smith, you just see them and you start to understand, wow, they are just some twitchy football players in the slot. How do I cover up that twitch? How can I anticipate their routes? And you look across that room and you just can't help but think like, wow, we have great people to practice against, great athletes to learn from. And to be real honest with you, Corey, I can't think of another room we're going to see in this conference that's going to give us that kind of challenge. So it's great to get that every day in practice before we have to see something else on game day.
You literally took the words out of my mouth. That's what I was sitting here thinking, and that's what I was about to say. Those practices may be more competitive than some of the games because I think this is the most talented wide receiver unit that you'll face. They're on your own team, so I can
Yeah.
imagine that we'll see some of those practices. But definitely shout out to that unit. I want to shout out Fabian McCray for being selected at All SWAC preseason, and Rico Powers. If I'm Rico Powers, I know he already plays with a chip on his shoulder, but if I'm Rico Powers, I'm playing with an added chip on my shoulder for not being selected to that All SWAC team. So look out. I know he'll be there at the end of the year, but look out, SWAC for Mr. Rico Powers this year.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You talked about our Coach Quinn. I want to just find out who are some other coaching mentors that have helped you along the way throughout your short journey as a coach.
Man, it's and in my short journey, I mean, I really have to turn to the guys that were with me at Central Missouri, and really the guys we have in our building. So my circle is real small, but it's full of love and full of experience. So I'm with Jackson. I mean, Coach Quinn has without a doubt been my closest mentor. I mean, everything I've learned in my last year has truthfully been from him. And everything else I've gathered around me has been pieces from Coach Bradley, Coach Hammock, and now even currently learning from the guys around me. Previous to them, Coach Josh Lamberson at Central Missouri, he really helped create for me what I believe is my coaching philosophy and how I approach teaching, how I approach handling a room and a unit. And he's done a great job for me as a mentor. And even looking at my previous DC at my last spot, Coach Greg Jones, guys that I talk to often, that had a wealth of experience before I met them, and again they just created that foundation for me. And then and again continuing back with the Jackson State room, and I mean looking at the leadership. I mean, you look at TC, for example, and all I can do is just help but watch him and learn from the accomplishments and the route he's taken in his career, and the success he's had in his career. You hear the stories, you hear the path, you hear the coaching style, you see what he's capable of, and really at the end of the day, I look at the people around me, and that's what I take in. I try to take in the best pieces of everything I'm seeing and try to bring it with me to the next stage.
Awesome stuff. We can tell that you have been around some great guys, some great mentors, just, your short time here, what you've done. One thing that has been impressive for me, just kind of watching from afar, your ability to get out there and recruit. I see what you're doing. I see the offers. I see you getting out. I know you love going back to California to recruit in places like that, but no matter where you are, I see those offers going out. I see those kids tweeting it out, and they're excited. But the thing that stands out, and I know that a star only goes so far. It's not about how many stars you have, but we get excited when we see a 3 or 4 star offer. Like, let's just be honest. And so I
Yeah.
just want to talk about your mentality out on the recruiting trail. You're at Jackson State. We're an FBS program. We're an HBCU, so it can be easy to get out there and be intimidated and not go after that guy who has the Auburn offer, but you go after him, and we actually get some of those kids as well. So what gives you that confidence with that block on your chest to get out there in those high schools and recruit those top tier kids?
Man, it's a fun time going out on the recruiting trail, especially with the block on my chest. It's not a hard sell. I mean, you go in and you talk to a recruit and you talk to them about what they're looking for and in their next home. And there's just so much that I'm able to pull from a Jackson State experience. Hey, you're going to come in and you're going to see a lot of elite competition. I mean, you look even at our roster now, you have a lot of FBS transfers coming from the bigger schools and whatnot. So if it's competition, you've got it. You want to find yourself in a platform and in a location to get to the next level, Jackson State. You've got cameras on you. You've got a fan base around you. You continue to have iron sharpens iron in the building. Easy. Okay, you have an opportunity. You have a chance to step in and be in a place where you're going to grow as an athlete and find your way to the next level. And then after that, the next step is, all right, what are you looking for in a college experience? The Jackson State, you start talking about what game day looks like, what your academics are going to look like. I mean, we're the #1 HBCU in the country for a reason academically. So it's like, okay, we have things to sell in terms of an experience and what you're getting out of a Jackson State degree. And so when I start talking to these recruits and we really start comparing apples to apples, it's all right. I mean, sure, you may have this offer, but if we put our name in this ring, we put up a great fight. And at that point, you start talking relationships and continuing to maintain those conversations with those kids and their parents. Because at the end of the day, those decisions are never really just made by one person. They're made by a group.
Good stuff. Great attitude, great mentality. We're blessed. We're honored to have you. I told you I was going to brag on you a little bit. So I talked about your ability to go out and recruit. That's been impressive, but also some of the accolades. There's a number of accolades, but one that really stands out, that you were selected as our coaching network 30 under 30. Very impressive. Congratulations, kudos. Talk about that honor. What exactly is it, and what does that mean to you?
It's a fantastic honor. It comes from so our coaching network is a collective group of it's a coaching association. So to be selected in that group means that I'm doing something the right way, that my name is getting out there in all the right places, and at least looking at the coaching world, everyone's seeing that the climb is happening, and that's, for me, that's what it means. It also allowed me to kind of network and get to talk to other coaches in terms of building relationships, as well as pulling some new information and learning more about the craft. And that's really what it ended up being for me. I ended up, getting on calls and exchanging texts with guys and being able to expand my knowledge a little bit. And that's what that type of honor gets you an opportunity to do some more learning. And at the end of the day, that's what this profession is about.
Awesome stuff, Coach. Well, listen, I appreciate your time. Not going to hold you. Glad we could get you on before fall camp. Before you go, I do want you to talk to the fans a little bit. Anything that you want to say, a message to the fans, but I do want you to speak specifically on the importance of them showing up. I know we always lead the nation in attendance, but there's a lot more seats in that stadium, and there are a lot of other fans that are out there who can't attend. So talk about that. We have the deadline for season tickets coming up. From a standpoint of why is that so important for the players, for that stadium to be packed, and for the recruits as well who are in attendance?
Well, and really this all goes hand in hand. So for my message to the fans, I mean, it's a big thank you. Thank you for having shown up and for hopefully continuing to show up, because especially when talking with recruits, for example, when I'm able to tell them, hey, you're gonna have people surrounding you here in Jackson, and supporting you and really watching you grow and develop and be something here in Jackson. It is really reassuring to know that when they hit that Twitter sphere, for example, there's an army of Jackson State fans there to greet them. So a big thank you for that and just for being incredible supporters of the program. But that doesn't stop. So you're absolutely right. I mean, there are a lot of seats to be filled up in the stadium, and plenty of room to go watch us on our road to Celebration Bowl this year. So just continuing to fill those seats and continuing to show the world why we are such a sought after destination.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Great stuff, Coach. Again, we appreciate it. Last but not least, your social media. Where can the fans follow you on X and or Instagram?
On X, you can find me as Coach_Magana. Magana is Magana. And on Instagram, it is my full name, Mario Magana Jr., JR at the end.
All right, fans, you asked for it and you got it, Coach Magana. Excited to see what this secondary does, what your cornerbacks do. Excited to see you finish some unfinished business from last season. We won't get into that, but I know you kind of fell short of some goals. So looking
Yes,
forward to you getting to work this fall and looking forward to you seeing a great product on the field. The fans will be there to support you. We'll be everywhere you're at, and we want to finish it up in Atlanta with you, celebrate.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me today, and thank you for everybody watching. Appreciate it.
All right, our pleasure.
Tiger Talk TV is presented by Bet Online.